Hey y'all, Leela with Miss Kiss Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Today's tumbler tutorial, I'm going to show you how I created this glittered sunset tumbler. Like always, all of my materials will be listed in my description below, including some direct links and coupon codes. And if you would like to purchase this tumbler or any other tumbler I've made in the past, don't forget to check out my website, www.misskisscreations.com, and don't forget you can always find me on my socials for more tips and tricks on tumblers, my Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started with this tutorial. Today I'm using a 20-ounce stainless steel tumbler. I have prepped this tumbler with a sanding block by sanding it down and then wiping it down with 91% alcohol. I've already painted my first coat of pop of color. It's All Peachy on this tumbler. I use this coral orangey color because that's like the sunset look. If you don't have this color on hand, you can always use white. It's no big deal. And here are all the colors I am using for my glitter. All these colors are from Glitter Heart Co. I will have them listed in my description, including a link and a coupon code for y'all to use for Glitter Heart Co. Again, use any colors you have on hand. I just found these sunset colors and I thought they would look pretty on this tumbler. So now that I have my first coat of my paint, I'm going to add my second coat, and this second coat is going to act as an adhesive. So if you don't have these pop of colors on hand, you can always paint your tumbler white or any other color with acrylic paint, and then you can add your Mod Podge over the paint and have your Mod Podge act as your adhesive. I just love these pop of color paints because they do go on thick and they also act as my glitter adhesive. I am using a 1-inch paintbrush I did purchase from Amazon, and I just apply that all around my tumbler, and I don't forget the bottom of my tumbler as well. And don't worry, my camera is gonna just clear right up. It did get blurry there for a second, but I did notice it, so my apologies. So once you have applied all of your paint to your tumbler, you want to add that glitter on immediately. So I'm starting with the yellow on the bottom, and then I'm just adding every color from there. You'll see that as I'm getting closer to the end of the yellow or towards that next color, my glitter bottle goes further away from the tumbler. And very important step or very important tip for this is make sure you have all of your bottles open. Make sure you have all of your catch paper ready, because this paint or Mod Podge that you might be using, it does dry quickly. And since you are like doing the ombre effect or the gradient effect, this stuff is gonna dry. So you'll see that I am opening my bottles. That's a no-no. Try to have all of your bottles open. Try to have your station ready to go, and so you could just move along and just get these glitters on the tumbler without worrying about that paint or that adhesive drying in the process. And you may have noticed this tumbler is actually a 30-ounce tumbler. So what I did was I glittered a 30-ounce tumbler, and it rained one day. So when I did my epoxy, I had so much humidity in my room that the entire tumbler had bubbles in it with the epoxy. So then off camera, I did another tumbler. So I did actually a 20-ounce skinny tumbler at the end, but I used the same colors that you see here. It's the same exact process. I use the same paint. So now that I have most of my glitters on my tumbler, you'll see at the top of that tumbler, there's some glitter missing because that paint did dry. So I take my paintbrush again and I dab just a little bit of paint on that brush, and then I lightly, very, very lightly, I just dab that paint all around the areas where that paint was dry so I can add that glitter back on the tumbler. You don't want to really paint this or brush stroke this on. You just want to blot this on very lightly. You don't want to cake it up. You just want enough to act as that adhesive, just to add that glitter in those areas that you may have missed. So I just quickly do that, and once I have the entire tumbler covered, right when I'm finished with this, I take my tumbler outside and then I spray this tumbler with my Rust-Oleum crystal clear acrylic coating. I spray 2 generous coats of this, so I spray 1 coat, I let it dry for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I spray the next coat. I spray this while my paint is still wet. It does not matter if your paint is wet or dry, so I do it immediately just to get the entire drying process out of the way. And then once that acrylic coating is nice and dry, I'm going in with my epoxy. Again, this is a 30-ounce tumbler. For this specific tumbler, I use 60 mLs of epoxy. That's 30 part A and 30 part B. If you are using a 20-ounce tumbler, then I would have used 40 mLs of epoxy. That's 20 part A and 20 part B. So I just applied this all over my tumbler. I don't have to worry about the glitters moving because I did spray that tumbler with that acrylic coating. So if I did not spray that tumbler with acrylic coating, these glitters would be moving everywhere and they would be mixing. They wouldn't be staying in place. So that acrylic coating is really the key to having these glitters stay on these tumblers and making sure that those glitters are nice and locked in. Once I applied all of my epoxy to my tumbler, I let my tumbler spin on the cup turner for about 4 hours. I then turn off my cup turner and then I let my cup air dry or air cure for another 20 hours with my total drying time of 24 hours. So I'm going to let this dry and then I'll see y'all then with the next step. And now we're back with the 20-ounce skinny tumbler that I told y'all about. Here it is, we changed up on y'all. So I'm using my 220 grit sanding block to lightly sand this tumbler. I'm sanding away any of the bubbles or any of the glitter pieces that may have been peeking through that epoxy. Again, I'm sanding very lightly. You do not want to sand away your glitter. Once I'm finished sanding, I guess I use another sanding block, 120 sanding block, because I guess there was a couple bubbles. Again, it's been so humid in Florida, guys. So if you see that there's little black dots or gray dots on my tumbler, don't worry about that. Take your 91% alcohol and just drench that area with those craters, because that's like the sanding dust that's caking inside of the craters, and just drench it and wipe it away, and then it'll eventually just be clean. And this is also wiping down my tumbler with my 91% alcohol to remove any of that excess dust on the tumbler. So once I'm finished with this, I'm then going to add my tape to the inside of my tumbler. But before I do that, I'm going to put my tumbler, my pipe inside of my tumbler just to have a nice handle, because we are going to take this tumbler outside. The reason why I'm adding my tape to my tumbler is because we are going to spray paint this, so I just want to have a protectant tape around it so I don't get too much spray paint in the inside. And then this is my outside station. I always use my big tote I purchased from Walmart. I have my PPE on. I have my dish gloves that I always use for my painting. And I'm using my Dawn dish soap. This is for the power wash method. And then I have my little garden container of water to rinse off that soap. So I'm going to do the power wash method using my 2 Rust-Oleum colors. I'm using coral and white. It does not matter the finish. And if you're not familiar with the power wash method, what you do is you spritz your power wash onto your tumbler, and I'm making sure to leave one area bare. So any area that has the power wash, the spray paint will not stick to. So all the areas that is bare with no power wash, the spray paint will stick to. And you'll see I'm just rinsing off that tumbler with the power wash or with the water, and then I'm blotting that tumbler, just drying as much as I can with a clean and dry paper towel, because now we're going to add the white. So again, I'm having that area filled with that power wash, making sure I keep that circle because that decal is going to go in that circle area. And then I'm spraying my tumbler with my white, and then I'm rinsing off the power wash and the spray paint with that clean water, and then blotting my tumbler, not scraping or wiping my tumbler, just blotting my tumbler with a paper towel. So this way I don't have to wait for that tumbler to dry to add another coat. I believe I actually did about 3 coats of this power wash. So this is what's great about this power wash. If you're unhappy with the with how the design turned out, you can just keep repeating these steps until your little heart is happy, and that's what I love about it. So once you're done with that 3rd or 4th spray, then you can finally put your tumbler away. You can have that dry. Make sure your tumbler is completely dry before moving on to the next step, which is adding the decals. So yes, I did not epoxy over the power wash because I let that power wash, that spray paint, sit for at least 4 to 5 hours, make sure it's completely dry, and then I apply my decal to that bare spot and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I found this cute like coral print that, or not print, but vinyl I found in my vinyl stash, and then I found this cute decal, or I should say file, from Cricut Design Space. I do have the Access Plus, or the $10 a month from Cricut Design Space, so I just searched sunburn or sunset, I believe, and this file came up. It's sunrise, sunburn, sunset, repeat, and I thought it would look perfect on this nice sunset tumbler. And then I had this pink vinyl that I also had. Whenever I was weeding it, I didn't know like how transparent it was, so you're gonna see me do the offset method, which applying that coral on that pink and then adding this to the tumbler and then realizing that it just does not look right. So you'll see that I add this and then I remove it because I really just didn't like it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So with an offset method, you'll see that it barely even looks offset. And you'll see that round area, that's where I'm adding that decal, and I'm just placing it right in that area where there's no power wash, and it just looks kind of bland in my opinion. It looks fine, but I really wanted that offset to really pop, so I decided to remove this quickly and just start over. And I wanted to show this to y'all because I like to show y'all my mistakes. It's okay, it's frustrating. I was just saying words that I don't want to repeat right now, but I was not happy because I don't like wasting time nor materials, but it just be like that sometimes. So we peel it off and we keep going again. And this is a good tip for your offset if you don't want it to lift. Place your second offset or your bottom offset on your Cricut mat, and then it will stick there so you can align that offset perfectly. So I decided to use just my white backing and then my coral offset, and look how beautiful this is. It pops so nicely on this tumbler. It goes perfectly with that power wash. I use the white and the coral, and it blends so well together. And I might just keep this tumbler. I know I say that every time, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. I'm going to sell it. So here's me peeling off the decal, and once this decal is peeled off, I'm going to add my bottom logo on the bottom of my tumbler, and I've been doing this for the past like 3 months, and I'm so happy that I'm adding this bottom logo. Once I add all the decals to the tumbler, I'm going in with my CCDIY Quick Coat. This is a urethane sealer, and what this does is this allows these decals and stickers to stick to the tumbler, so whenever you epoxy, you don't have to worry about your stickers or decals lifting, and you know that they're gonna stick really well to the tumbler, and you don't have to worry about any of that. So once that dries, about 20 minutes or so, we're going to go in with epoxy. What I did was I epoxied this tumbler 2 times. I used 10 milliliters of epoxy each time. So I did 2 thin coats of epoxy. I'd rather do it that way than one thick coat of epoxy, because then your tumbler might get bumpy if your station's uneven or not level. So I like to do those 2 thin coats of epoxy, and then my tumbler is good to go. And once I added that second coat of epoxy, I let my tumbler cure for at least 24 hours before I moved on to cleaning up the inside of the tumbler and the rim of the tumbler. And now that my epoxy is cured on my tumbler, I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut around the rim of the tumbler. I'm just removing any of that epoxy or even paint that may have been placed on the rim, and then I wash every tumbler out with my Dawn dish soap. I make sure to do a nice cleaning, and then I add my lid to my tumbler, and my tumbler is ready to go and ready for sale. These tumblers are going to be perfect for summertime. I love the power wash for that beachy sunset look. And you guys remember, these are just inspirations, so use as many colors as you like. Really have fun with this, and I know whatever you create is going to look beautiful. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.